So let's talk about this idea of friction, okay? So let's start with a real simple question. How many of you watched Lord of the Rings? Okay, now you don't need to raise your hand. How many of you didn't watch Lord of the Rings? Anybody? Oh my God, one. Andrew, and I respect you too. What, 1, 2, 3, 3 of you. All right, the next 5 slides are not for you guys, okay? So I have a simple question for those of you who actually paid attention or read the book. What's the one singular objective of this entire saga? What was it?
Destroy the ring.
Oh, man, you read my presentation. Absolutely. Destroy the damn ring, right? So, in order to accomplish this, right, what did they do? They decided to get together in Rivendell, and they had their little offside, okay? Now, a couple problems with this offside is I didn't see a big amount of gender diversity here, huh? So that and the fact that they probably had too much of that elven bread, the lambos or something, right? Too much of that. Okay, and they came up with a sucky solution, guys. Think about it. You know, you have an offsite. You're supposed to ideate, right? Okay, and this is the one solution they came up with. All right, what did they do? They picked a ring bearer that was a little bit suspect. Okay, all right, and hell, they said, you know what? Let's make this most difficult journey as possible. Let's make it 12 months long. Let's go over mountains and caves and orc-infested swamps. You know, let's go hang out with spiders. I mean, wow, right? Great solution. No, it sucked, man. It really sucked. Now, look, if we got together in Rivendell, okay, and we used our AI and our DeFi and our whatever-fi and all that, right, you know, and we machine learned the hell out of the potential options, I think we would have come up with a much better solution, guys, right? We would have made it easy and simple. In fact, we would have thought to ourselves, hell, what's the Middle Earth equivalent of this? Anybody? Thank you, man. You're just nailing it. Okay, you're like, absolutely the Eagles, right? So what do we do? Hey, Gandalf, put the ring in a magic box that no one actually can put in a finger. Great, okay? Put it on a necklace on our little friend here. Fly over 2 hours, Mount Doom, drop it off. End of story, man. Frictionless, simple, right? Pretty cool. Okay, that's what we would have come up. But guess what? It would have been boring, okay? Right? Boring. And, you know, I think part of it is this. Life isn't meant to always go from point A and point B as fast as possible. Sometimes you got a few curves there. And the story talks about the idea of the hero's journey. It's Frodo's a hero. There's a bunch of heroes in that. Everyone has their little hero's journeys in there. There's multiple hero's journeys. And in our own personal lives, we go through these ups and these downs, right? We have moments of inspiration and excitement where we're ready to take off on something, and then all of a sudden, boom, the project derails. Oh my God, we have to move as a family, and you know, we didn't anticipate that. You know, lots of things go wrong in our life. And you know where the beauty is actually in that little, not the scared face, but the real frustrated face, right? It's when we've had to persevere, when we've had to look deep down inside and find courage, right? The quotient that says, I will look fear in the eye and say, you know what? I'm going to overcome you. I'm not going to not acknowledge you, but I'm going to overcome you. And then we get to that happy place. Okay? Now, I'm not here to knock the idea of becoming frictionless or seamless. In fact, there's a lot of benefits from us becoming frictionless. I want to acknowledge those, right? First and foremost, you know, think about it. 30 years ago, 20 years ago, there was not this idea of, hey, if I want it, I get it. That instantaneous connection. And I don't know about you guys, but when I search for products on Amazon, I always screen for things that can be delivered in a day or two, right? I don't know about you guys. Oh, I want it in 3 weeks. I don't think so, right? So that's a big benefit of becoming frictionless and seamless, right? What other benefits might there be? Well, hey, there's all this new sort of philosophy around the idea of no pain, all gain. I like that. That's a pretty good promise. You know, we can all volley. You and I can look like this guy, right? Okay? And all we need to do is go to Amazon, and tomorrow it'll be, actually tonight it could be delivered, one of these, right? An ab stimulator, okay? So guess what? You can actually get your six-pack while having a six-pack. Awesome, huh? Okay, that's fantastic. All right, how many of you up there have ever had to coach your kids' little league or basketball or soccer team? Oh, okay, you guys will understand this, right? So, yeah, the kids can be a little bit challenging, but usually at the age that they're at, they're pretty compliant. They'll pretty much follow what the coach says. Who's the real pain in the asses for the coach? Yeah, the parents, right? And so, hey, to avoid all the conflict with the parents, and at the end of the year, you give out all these awards, well, guess what? Everybody gets an award. That's the seamless and easy way, right? It's the participation generation, right? But in some ways it's a benefit because everyone gets a shot of the idea of being part of something and rewarded, okay? Now, we all went through COVID, and COVID actually accelerated the pace of becoming frictionless and seamless. And what did we have? We had all these new ways of being able to do things that we love to have done without having to do as much work, effort, or interaction, okay? And in fact, it's not only the fact that we've been on Zoom and we actually haven't had face-to-face contact with people, we don't even know if that face is human anymore, right? And that's the idea of becoming seamless and frictionless when things happen where we don't actually have to put in the effort and neither does the other party, okay? But I would say this, by our focus primarily on going frictionless and seamless, have we potentially gone too far? And that's really what I'm trying to explore in the book. At the end of the day, I think I was sitting with Ray last night at dinner, and he just looked at me and says, it doesn't get better than this. He was just looking around, seeing that he was doing the thing that he loved most, which was bringing people together, talking about important issues, trying to change the world one conference at a time, one book at a time, one talk at a time, one conversation at a time. And at the end of the day, you think about it, what do we all want more of? Money? I don't know. Power? Come on, guys. Fame? Maybe? I don't know. Really, I actually think it's this, happiness, right? At the end of the day, that's what we are all striving for. And to become happy, there's actually something that happens physically with us to generate this happiness. I don't know if you guys are familiar. I talked a little bit about dopamine, right? All right, that's sort of the anticipation/reward chemical that we get, that feeling, okay? Oxytocin, they kind of call it the love hormone or the love chemical. And it happens when we come into a strong relationship, when we have physical contact and connect with others. Serotonin is an interesting one. I think it gets generated. It's a mood generator and a mood stabilizer, but it also gets really elicited when we are respected and when we are acknowledged by other people. So recognition is really important. And endorphins, I think it's kind of the chemical that happens when it's like a painkiller. When you get to that point and you're at the 25th mile of that 26-mile run, it really kicks in, right? It's the endorphins, okay? So these are the happy chemicals. If we think back about all those benefits of being frictionless and seamless, unfortunately, we might have taken it too extreme, and we're not as happy as maybe we could be by our focus on that. Let's think about this. Dopamine requires a bit of patience, right? Part of the great dopamine high is the anticipation in order to get the reward. So that's not necessarily helpful. What about the idea of oxytocin? Well, in order to generate oxytocin, you need the friction of contact and of interaction. And what about serotonin? Hey, if everyone's getting an award, the award that you got for first place just doesn't feel as important as it used to feel. And endorphins, hey, if it's all this idea of getting a six-pack while drinking a six-pack, I don't know. You don't definitely get that high. There's also another one I throw in here. People don't talk about this, but I also think it's an important chemical, and it's this idea of adrenaline. And we talked about that with the Lord of the Rings example and the hero's journey. The idea of going through the struggle and having the courage and having the ability to overcome something. It generates a lot of adrenaline when we're put into those stress situations. So I would argue that, you know what? not all friction is created equal. There's bad friction, and we definitely need to get rid of bad friction, right? Bad friction is stuff that creates frustration, annoyance, redundancy, uncertainty, risk. And I think as a society, we've been really good about accelerating the pace of getting rid of the bad friction. But in the process of getting rid of all that bad friction, have we neutered out all the good friction? Okay? And notice that in the definition, both require resistance, conflict, and effort. It's just what are the outcomes that come from all of that effort? So let me share some virtues of good friction, all right? So everybody knows this person, right? She's a billionaire, all right? She's got all the money in the world. She probably has more influence than the president does. I mean, she was able to get somebody pardoned. I mean, and fame, power, all that. I think, this is somebody who has done it pretty easily, right? But what's the one thing Kim Kardashian can't get enough of? Anyone guess? What was that? I couldn't hear. I'm sorry. You got to say louder. Attention. No, but you're maybe, but she gets a lot of it. Here's the one consumer item she can't get enough of. Anyone know what this is? Burke, and all the guys know, right? If I'd put a Star Trek figure here, it would have been different, right? Yeah, it's the Birkin bag. And then for the guys here who don't know what the Birkin bag is, it's by Hermes, okay? It was designed on an airplane when Jane Birkin, who was a very famous actress, sat next to the CEO of Hermes. And her first comment, not knowing who she'd sit next to, was, what happened is she sat down and all her items spilled out of her bag. And she goes, damn it, if only Hermes would design a bag that could carry all my stuff. She sat right next to the CEO. And so they drew it up on a napkin, and that's the bag that came out of it. Now, what's the base cost for one of these? Anybody know? $12,000. Yep, it was $10,000, but guess what? COVID, 12, okay? So, it's 12, but you know what the highest one is? A few $100,000, okay? All right. But it's not the price, because the Kardashians, they make billions, right? They could buy as many of these as they want. She's actually had to work hard to get every single Birkin bag she's ever had. It's not about having money. It's about knowing the right salespeople, using all your influence, trying to commit to advertising it, whatever it is. She's worked hard, and she has a story behind every one of the bags that she owns because it took effort to get there. By the way, for most of us, we probably can't get a Birkin bag. It's not about the money. There's usually a 6 to 12 month wait list, but there is a little secret I'll share with those of you who really want a Birkin bag. If you go to a Hermes store, they will not have these on display, but they are in the back room. You don't know what style is, what color is, what the material is. You don't actually know how much they cost. In order to get the salesperson to bring it out, the process is this. You sit down, you talk to them. They won't say they have it. They'll be coy about it. You kind of have to hint at it. And we've confirmed this with our research. You will be there for about 2 hours. And in the process, you will have committed to paying and buying a whole bunch of other merchandise that's at least equal value of the Birkin bag before they'll even bring out the Birkin bag. So, in other words, your price tag is doubled because who needs a $1,200 pair of Hermes bathroom slippers? But that's what you're going to have to buy to get the Birkin bag, okay? So, anyway, this is the idea. Look, by the way, need money for Birkin. This is her closet, okay? Reality, she doesn't need the money. It's the story and the effort to get the Birkin bag. That's really important here. So, sometimes playing hard to get actually just makes others want to play harder. So are you making your customers play hard? I don't know. Think about that. Okay, so exclusivity requires friction. Part of exclusivity means you sometimes have to exclude others. Let's talk about another one. We all know this, right? We all have it downloaded. Is that right? I saw some of you using it last night. Maybe not. I don't know. Okay. Well, there's another company that says, no, we're going to take a little bit different approach because it's not about instant gratification. Some people actually want meaningful relationships. Novel, right? Which company took the 180-degree approach from Tinder? Yes, that's right. eHarmony. Okay? And in fact, they're famous for the idea that to actually get your profile started, there's like 100 or 150 question survey that you actually have to fill out for your profile, okay? But what does that do? It signifies that, hey, I'm serious, but I also know the people that I potentially meet here are also just as serious and want to have a meaningful relationship. And here's the thing about meaning. Nothing meaningful really ever came that easily. Let's take this idea. They've done a lot of research. $10 million. Let's say you win in the lottery. Well, most people win the $10 million in the lottery tend to spend it fairly quickly. But if you've had to spend 20, 30 years of your life getting to that 10 million threshold, and you've had a lot of ups and downs, a lot of different decision points in your life and sacrifices you had to make, believe me, you will treat that 10 million differently than somebody who got it easily. Okay, does anybody know what this is? It's not an NFT. This is the idea that in order to belong to an organization, it requires a high degree of commitment. Think about this, how painful it is to get a normal tattoo, but on your face, near your eyelids, near some sensitive areas, and the fact that you cannot easily decide tomorrow to quit, right? Because anywhere you go, people know who you are. This is what's required to even enter the MS-13 game in El Salvador, okay? And I won't even tell you what it, well, I'll tell you what it, in order to be a captain there, you will have to kill one of your rival gang members. That's a requirement. So to belong to something, actually, it's this idea, the more we make people invest, the more loyal and committed they are to our cause and to who and what we represent. So are you making your customers invest in you and your brand? Think about that. Okay. Here are two companies. Who's more successful right now? Anyone know? Airbnb. They have almost 3 times not only the listings, but the bookings of VRBO. And why? Because they added friction purposely into the system. How did they do that? Well, yeah, they've got these super hosts, but there are a lot of requirements to be a super host, okay? And it's a big badge of honor, and people work their butts off to make their homes places where people will treat as their second home. But it doesn't just go one way, it goes the other way too, where there are super guests. And in fact, there are 20 different books on the etiquette of being a good Airbnb guest, okay? And what Airbnb did with this idea of friction is elevate into a stay. It elevated the idea of being just a visitor into being a guest and having a host, all right? And so sometimes when it comes to building rapport between people, it's not only about what you give, it's about what you ask in return and what you take, okay? So think about it sometimes. You need to ask more of people in order to build a better relationship with them. Anybody remember this? About almost 40 years ago now, okay? Cyanide in Tylenol. What happened there? Tylenol had to go back and said, look, we're going to add some friction into the system. Think about your double email verification when you log onto your bank account, right? Very similar, right? Guess what? Sometimes providing inconveniences actually add and enhance the experience because they give you assurance. All right, last one is this. This predated the Squid Game, but I also give Koreans a lot of credit. They really yes, they really, by the way, my name's Soon. It sounds Korean. I'm not, but I wish I was, Sonny, okay? Honor, absolutely, right. Yeah, I can eat a lot of kimchi, okay? All right. The Koreans really understand the idea of friction. Let me demonstrate. turn it off. I used to work there, so. Anyway, that's all about friction, right? It's gamification. You know? You want to create engagement? You want to make them laugh? You want to make them cry? Dennis made us laugh or cry. I can't figure it out, but probably both, right? And you want to make them jump, okay? So it's really critical when you think about, there are actually 7 virtues of good friction, right? We talked about exclusivity. We talked about meaning. We talked about the idea of belonging. We talked about rapport, building rapport with somebody. Assurance. I didn't really cover this one, but we talked about the idea of no pain, no gain, or all gain, no pain. And in reality, you don't want to be an imposter, right? You got to put in the hours. And lastly, engagement. Those are the 7 virtues. And guess what? Make it really easy for you guys to remember this next time when you guys think about designing a system. And it's this. You just need to embrace a dose of good friction. Because if you embrace it, you'll get the 7 virtues, which will lead to adrenaline, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. I've got 2 minutes, and I want to share one last story with you guys. So, when I wrote my first book, a group called the Dorchester company or group brought me in to do a talk. Do you know who the Dorchester Group is? Anybody? Yep. Who are they? That's right. They're hotelers, right? Exactly. And in fact, 2 of the hotels they own are in here. I believe they own the Beverly Hills Hotel and the Bel Air Hotel. Okay. And as you can tell, if you go to TripAdvisor, they're ranked number 1, generally most of the time. But for the longest time, guess what? Notice number 2. For hotels in Los Angeles. How many of you have ever stayed at the Magic Castle Hotel? I wouldn't even call it a hotel, honestly. But okay, anybody? Yes, you have? You've been there. Bear, I love you. Okay, you've been to the right places, right? Most of the time, they're actually ranked number 1. And think about that. I go talk to the Dorchester Group. They're like, what the hell? Why is this the case? Okay? And so I did a little analysis for them, and this is what I found. You see, the Magic Castle Hotel isn't a hotel that really sits in the same sphere as your Bel Air and your Beverly Hills, because quite frankly, it looks like the apartment complex from Melrose Place. You guys remember the old Melrose Place where Allison was here and, you know, all that, right? So, yeah, it kind of does look like that, right? It's yellow. It's got like a 1940s pool right in the middle, in the center of the entire motel complex. I feel like it's more of a motel. And yet it's ranked number 1 out of like 300-400 hotels in Los Angeles. Why? Well, here's what they figured out. 1, they decided to serve a different clientele. Yes, guess what? They're next to Disney World, Magic Castle, right? So, or Disneyland, sorry. So if you're next to Disneyland, what clientele will you probably be going after? Families, absolutely. But they got smarter than just families, right? They decided to get down to who actually really mattered on these family vacations, especially if you're going to Disneyland. It's not the parents. It's the kids. So you get there, you open up the closet, and what do you find? I got a robe, man. That's like my size, right? Think about it. That's so cool. So you see all these pictures on TripAdvisor of kids wearing the robes. Man, they're feeling pretty good about this, right? And you know what, parents? Yeah, we get there and we look at, sometimes we want room service. Well, the kids have their own menu. 24/7, they get basically candy, drinks, munchies, all right? This was designed for the kids, not for the adults. And in fact, the number one item that parents said that the kids loved was something called the popsicle hotline. Yeah. In fact, you go to TripAdvisor, this is the number one photo that is shown. And the popsicle hotline isn't designed for Vala or for me. No. You see, although we like popsicles, right? Yeah. It's definitely for Vala. Oh, it's all for Vala. No. It's actually about this high. So, I have a bad back. It wouldn't really work. It's designed for her. Little Susie here. I don't know her name. But anyway, you get my point here, right? It's at the level that she is. It's a little red hotline, okay? And guess what? It's basically telling parents, you're not allowed to use this. This is for kids only. It's right next to the pool. And when you call that little hotline, a gentleman wearing a suit with no socks on, I don't get that part, okay? But, brings out a whole bucket of popsicles and says, what would you like? And that is available 24/7. Isn't that crazy? By the way, if you really want to stay there and get some sleep, it's not a great place, but kids are playing all night long, right? But at first I thought, man, they give away these munchies. Maybe they're just using sugar as a way to entice these kids. Then I read all the reviews that talked about the popsicle hotline. As I read deeper, I realized this organization understood the idea of friction. Their initial design said, let's just put a popsicle cooler near the pool. Because guess what? That would be easy. Kids can just go and pick up the popsicles anytime they wanted. And they realized that was not what was going to work. They needed to create a hotline. Because what happens is, when little Susie's in the pool, parents write about this. You can see, the minute she jumps in the pool, she's all excited and playing in the water, but she, every once in a while, turns her head and looks at the popsicle hotline. All right? And what it's generating is dopamine, because she's anticipating. But the other thing it generates is serotonin. Why? Because it's up to her when she decides she wants it. It's not up to mom. It's not up to dad. It's up to her to make that decision. Okay? So she's being treated like an adult to make an executive decision about when she wants the popsicle. So I want to challenge all of you guys. In designing your machine learned, your artificial intelligent, your seamless, frictionless experiences, are you building in your own popsicle hotlines? Thank you very much.